Good evening. We are live and we are being recorded.
Great. Thanks so much, Mike. Good evening and welcome to the Planning Board of the Town of East Hampton on the July 7th, 2021 meeting. My name is Kathleen Cunningham. I'm the Vice Chair. It's my privilege to serve this body. In Sam Kramer's absence, Sam is traveling to the USA and with his family, and Ed Krug, our other 7th member, is also away on holiday. So we're down to 5 here. I have a couple of quick announcements. One is that we're on the honor system here with our COVID protocols, and folks who have been vaccinated are permitted entry to the building without masks. But if you have not been vaccinated, we ask you to wear a mask while you're in the room with us. That's it, right, Thomas? There's nothing more?
That's right.
Yeah, okay. And then, so we are going back to our business as usual. I also wanted to just thank LTV, our planning department staff and our planning board staff for their yeoman effort to get us to this point over the last 17 months. It's been Mr. Toad's wild ride, and it's been very difficult, and LTV's been fantastic, and Jody and Nora, the planning department, and Eric and Marco and Will and everyone in the planning, I said that wrong, planning board and the planning department. We're just really grateful for your support. It's really made it not just tolerable, but it works. It's been working, and that's kind of an amazing thing to me. So we're going to get started with our regular, the work session. We have 3 site plans up for review tonight, and I'll turn it over to Eric to start with Fenway Harbor Affordable Housing.
Sure. This is an application for a 50-unit affordable housing complex in 5 different buildings. Each building is a 2-story building. There's to be 1 community building. And
Mike, do you need to be talking?
I'm sorry, am I not loud enough?
I can't. Well,
Okay,
I can hear you, but you don't sound mic'd, so.
Oh.
I just want to be sure.
All right, I'll try to project more. It's an application for a 50-unit affordable housing complex within 5 buildings. Each one is a 2-story building. 10 of the units will have 1 bedroom, 30 will have 2 bedroom, and the remaining 10 will be 3-bedroom units. I'm going to screen share and show you the general location of this property in town on GIS, and that worked. So the property is situated along 3 Mile Harbor Road in East Hampton. It's zoned to A3 and will have an affordable housing overlay designation. It's nearly 100% uncleared of naturally occurring vegetation, which is mostly mixed deciduous woodlands. The property to the north is vacant residential, and the property to the south includes a large active sand pit. The parcel is within a number of areas designated for groundwater protection, including the Pine Barrens, Groundwater Protection Area, and Groundwater Management Zone 5. This is a unlisted action under SECRA. We recommend that the planning board declare lead agency. The general layout has been changed a bit from what you saw in the preliminary application. And hopefully that will come up on the screen. Let me stop share and retry. Okay, so here we go. So basically, from the preliminary, there have been a number of changes. The first most noticeable is that the total number of buildings has been changed from 6 to 5. Additionally, the sidewalk that's around, originally the sidewalk here was in the interior of the site. Now it's proposed around the perimeter. The buildings have changed to face outwards towards the perimeter road as opposed to the interior common area. The parking along the northern side of the complex has been removed. And additionally, the applicants have added 2 rain gardens. So the board should review this general layout. They found the preliminary one acceptable, but since it has changed, the board should have that discussion. If you do find this general layout acceptable, then I believe the next thing to do would be to have a traffic study performed. That's standard for applications of this type and facilities of this type. The Springs Fireplace Road corridor study has estimated that this facility would generate about 20 to 25 trips per peak hour. However, when you have a traffic study, it includes other information, accident records, turning movement counts. perhaps propose changes to the design of access and on-site circulation. So we recommend that you require a traffic study. A comprehensive landscaping plan was submitted. The planning department finds this generally acceptable. However, we recommend a number of changes. Let me see if I can. I'm having trouble when I scroll down through the plans and then come back to them. So I'm going to temporarily stop the screen share and then move on down to the landscaping plan. So this is the landscaping plan. So the first change we would recommend helps when you hit screen share. Let me just do that. Okay. So the first recommendation would be, and I'm going to use our new high-tech feature here. The first feature that we recommend is you can see this squiggly line that's drawn on the plan seems to indicate the edge of clearing that's proposed. Again, this property is almost entirely deciduous woodlands. There's a notation here saying hydro seed, which indicates lawn and grass. There's also another notation that says existing vegetation to remain as much as possible, but it looks like significant areas in the front of the property are proposed to be cleared. We would recommend that that not be done, that as much of the native woodlands be preserved as possible. And then additionally, at the time of the preliminary review, the board requested additional screening along the northern property line and a wall or similar obstruction along the southern property line. The idea here being that, again, this area here, the board recommended that additional evergreen screening be added because that is a vacant residential property to the north. And then again, this is the sand pit to the south here. So some kind of retaining wall or some kind of feature to block dust from getting into the facility was also recommended. I don't see any notations indicating those being added to the plans. And then additionally, clearing calculations have been provided, or excuse me, no clearing calculations have been provided. We note that the allowable clearing on this property is 80,000 square feet unless the board permits more. The plans seem to indicate something around 115,000 square feet of clearing. That's a number given for total lot coverage, though, I believe. And that's something also in the memorandum is that the coverage calculations, the clearing calculations, the notations are not in their standard form, and that should be done. The only other major issue to point out here is that the lighting plan, first, the board might want to discuss with the applicants whether or not lighting is should be added to this walkway that the applicants have added that snakes down to 3 Mile Harbor Road. One thing I'll point out, because when I mentioned it, I didn't have this up, but they've also added these two rain gardens here along 3 Mile Harbor Road. And if you remember from the preliminary, this property slopes significantly upward, sort of comes to a plateau, and then slopes more gently downward. But there's a pretty significant grade change here as you come down. So the board should discuss whether or not you need lighting on that. Additionally, the other two aspects of the lighting plan that should be changed, there's pole-mounted fixtures throughout the site. They're too bright based on the planning board's exterior guidelines for exterior lighting. There's also bollards throughout the site. They're also too bright. Both are in the neighborhood of about twice the intensity in terms of wattage of what would probably be acceptable. Their locations, though, are acceptable to us, and just provided us a different fixture is chosen. That should be fine. So we attached with the memorandum the special permit standards. It does not appear that this application cannot meet any of those specific standards. Additionally, the board had requested that bus stops and bike racks be added to the proposal. The applicants have added those, and I'm just going to try and pinpoint the location. So there's a bus stop here, and then a bus stop in the rear. And then there are bike racks in this location, and then also over here. So the applicants have honored that request. And then I guess just to get back to that front walkway, the applicants have said that it would be ADA compliant. We just need figures that demonstrate that, and we'll bring it to the fire marshal's office to verify that. The application will need approval of the health department. Sanitary calculations have been added, but we just remind the applicants that they'll need that. And we remind you again that an on-site wastewater treatment plant is proposed with this application in this area here at the front of the site. So other than that, just to reiterate, there are some notation changes that need to be made, but that's basically it. The application is remarkably complete for a first formal submission that you'd see. Really, the board should focus its conversation on the general layout, whether or not there are any minor tweaks that need to be made. The applicant should get a traffic study, provided the board is comfortable with the general layout, and then those changes to landscaping and lighting as directed should be made. And then this will be, if and provided all those can be addressed for the next submission, the application would be complete and ready for a public hearing.
Okay, the applicant want to come and address the board? Yep.
Good evening. Nice to see everybody in person.
Good to see you too.
So I am Katie Casey from the East Hampton Housing Authority. The Housing Authority is co-developer and sponsor locally for the project. We have teamed up again with the Georgia Green Ventures. They are the co-developers that brought us Dance Meadow in Amagansett. So we have an excellent team assembled. We just kind of went right into 3 Mile Harbor because the necessity for affordable housing is not lessening. It's only intensifying. The last 18 months have only intensified it. So this particular project application was made late 2020. We were informed by the state, I believe it was in late March or early April, that the project is fully funded. So
Congratulations.
thank you.
Good deal.
Yep, pretty exciting. So in addition to satisfying this board, the town board, and the architectural review board, we also have to satisfy the state. So sometimes some of our decisions are in response to a requirement from the state, like Eric, you mentioned, ADA, that's something that the state is keenly aware of. So that is has already been sort of worked out. The changes to the site plan, scaling it back a little bit, that is in part in response to the fact that we made application late 2020 and then in early 2021, building materials skyrocketed, but our budget does not adjust accordingly. So that caused some of the changes that we made since the preliminary application. So we are here. The architect is represented, Jennifer Chook from Stephen B. Jacobs. She's here to answer any architectural or design, engineering from Georgia Green Ventures, Dave Gallo, Allison Gioso, and Matt Ardito. We have counsel, Dave Gilmartin, and Chris Robinson from R&M Engineering, Civil, and Site, Lighting, and Landscape. So if you have any questions, we're pretty well in attendance, and we're happy to answer any questions.
Well, thanks very much, Katie. Congratulations on getting the funding. That's a big deal.
Thank you.
Sorry to know the scaling back was an issue, but I understand that.
I also have some renderings with me for the,
Okay.
to kind of get the visual.
Okay, that sounds great.
I just have a question, Katie. So
Yeah.
the wall, is that something that you're planning on doing, the retaining wall on that one side?
Yeah, these are retaining walls. There's a break in the retaining wall. There's a retaining wall here and here, and in 2 points to the north.
And then, because I think there was a letter from Eastern Exempt that just concerned with just blocking access to the pits.
Mhm.
So I was also thinking maybe in the back, as you go to the end of the property, you can kind of like sort of look over to the pit. And I think they were concerned with just having walk into the sand pits. So,
Mhm. Yeah, the sand pit is situated to the south, and there is a slope. That is currently pretty well used by dirt bikes and quads. And this really is only half of the parcel. The development only goes about halfway up. And then this is all woods up in this direction. And then Bistrians have another material CI property. I think it's called an asphalt plant, but I don't think they actually make asphalt there.
The Visteon lot that backs up to that. Does anybody else have any questions for Katie? I'll ask Lou to his application. He's the committee on it. We'll lead our discussion.
Yeah, very grateful for this project that's going up in Hampton. I think you know here it's needed for the working house. The only things that strike out at me have to do with landscaping. I agree with Eric that I think those two areas near the entrance, which are for lawn on both sides. I think, his recommendation is a good one, leave it in its natural state as much as we can, especially when you do preliminary calculations. I think it's best that we keep it within that 80,000 square feet maximum.
Mhm.
So that's a concern of mine. I think the traffic study is going to be necessary. I don't think there's going to be a problem with it, but I think it's a good idea to have one. The dust barrier, I think, is important. You mentioned there's the retaining wall on the south side.
Mhm.
Is that high enough to act as a dust barrier, or is it just a retaining wall to ensure because of the slope?
It's my understanding that it's because of the topography. Maybe Chris could address that.
Chris Robinson from Robinson and Muller Engineers. The retaining walls, both on the north side and the south side, are really just meant to help break the grade necessary to create the parking lot. They're not going to be tall enough to block dust. What we'd like to offer would be to do additional landscaping and screening in there, which would help. We could install behind the walls above.
That's what I was going to suggest. I think on both sides, but more importantly, on the south side, I think you go up. So to create some kind of barrier, I think a barrier is very important, especially on the south side.
So we've also located it in our existing conditions plan, the top of the excavation on the sand pit side, which does occur quite far off the property line. There is a good thick area of woods between where we're going to clear here and where that begins to drop down on the sand pit side.
Yeah, I think height is important. That's my.
And I think landscaping treatment behind the retaining wall would be the way to accomplish
I
that.
also agree with the landscaping suggestion of not having the lawn.
Yeah, actually, what we propose in some of the larger areas, and we need to create the driveway up at a reasonable slope to not make it too steep and to get the meandering sidewalk down that doesn't exceed 5% in the running slope. We need to do grading in there. We need to blend it out and move the grades out to do it. What we've proposed is to do in the large areas more of a wildflower mix, trying to create more of the natural wildflower field, not a manicured lawn. So we have an ecology mix where we would do it along the roadway where it could be mowed, and then a wildflower mix in larger areas to try to let it become cessational growth, to get back to more of a natural type of landscape in there. Unfortunately, to make the grades work for the road and the sidewalk, I can't keep all the trees in that area, but we are keeping quite a large number of the trees. And we'll do what we can to, and I realize you could draw, to try to bring that clearing line back in a little tighter to the sidewalk along the northerly part of it.
Well, I think as many trees as you can save up.
Certainly.
The only other item I have is, again, I agree with Eric on that path that you created. Yeah, that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's important that you do have lighting there.
Certainly. We've set up the roadway lighting, which are the pole lights along the side, and they do cover vast majority of the path. We can look at it and see what other areas may need to be augmented in it. But most of the roadway lighting situated outside does shine back to illuminate the path, at least in a light level, a very, very low level. I'll be happy to answer any other questions anybody has.
Yeah, I don't have much to add. Like Lou, you know, I support the project. I think it's a great project, and I'm excited that you're here before us. The only thing I would want to, you know, add or emphasize is that wall on the south side. And I do think that there should be a physical barrier, not only to protect the, you know, the people who live there, but also to discourage them from wandering to a, you know, attractive nuisance, I guess, or absolutely, maybe nuisance is the right word, but, you know, I don't want to put a development in where it would invite people to go explore where maybe they shouldn't be. So perhaps a low stockade fence or some other physical barrier that is then screened with landscaping from both sides. But I'd like to see something there. Otherwise, I agree with everything that you said. Look forward to seeing this project through.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'm in agreement. We're happy to see the Housing Authority in Georgia Green did such a great job in it. So we've got a good team going, and we definitely need it. Yeah, I would basically support what Lou said. You know, we have the groundwater recharge, both the quantity and quality. It's best if we have those native woods up. Since we've got, this is in a sensitive area. I don't know if there's any other way you can do those grades without, I mean, it's taking fill away from the site or bringing it in. Would that allow you to leave more wood up or not really?
There's quite a significant grade change coming up the road.
Okay.
The road itself is going to be roughly in the 7-8% slope, which far exceeds the ADA allowability for the running slope on a sidewalk. Normally, we would have a sidewalk following the road. We'd have a landscape strip with the lighting and the street trees in it and the walk behind it. But that would put the sidewalk at that 7 or 8%, which is well above the ADA. So the only way to get the walkway from 3 Mile Harbor Road up to the development and keeping it at 5% would be to create a longer path. Hence the meandering path to get more length to the road to keep the slope down. And it's just a simple engineering. There's not much I can do to change that without putting switchbacks in, like you see at a commercial building where you have a ramp up a thing and then a ramp up again, which just doesn't fit the nature of what we're trying to develop here.
That's your grading.
Oh, there you go. Thank you very much. But I think we can take a look at the grades on the, especially on the north side of it, and see what we can do to pull the woods line back in closer to the wall.
And then I guess the planning department would work with you. I think we prefer the, you know, huckleberry, oak. I don't think we want anything that needs to be irrigated or fertilized. We'd like to get, after you're done, we'd like to get back to what's there if
Sure.
we can. I've walked up there and that sand pit definitely appeals to the little boy in me. You know, we would have been all over that sand pit.
We want to keep people from running down that slope. It just looks fun. But yeah, I agree with that.
I have to say, I really liked I love the air and view from there. Like I wish we could find a way without stockade. I wonder if we could just do a permeable fence that would keep both at that far end where you're not going and on the south side, there's some serious slopes in there. And I would think that the owners of the pit also, I wonder if they would participate, because they don't want more more kids playing in there. Anyway, that to me also. And then I'm wondering about the treatment plan. So the treatment plant is not that far from the excavated pit, right? So you're going to be discharging the treated effluent into the ground, right?
They'll be into the ground on the lower side below the plant. They are significant separation from the sand pit itself. And there'll be a retaining wall around it that brings that grade down in here. We've situated it as far west as we would want to honor the wetland areas that are past 3 Mile Harbor Road. We've worked with the health department on a siting plan for where that plant could be located. We would not want to move it any closer to 3 Mile Harbor Road to conform with the health department requirements for the setbacks to the lower areas, which are to the west over here.
Are you concerned at all that it might leach into the sand pit, because you've got I don't know how deep the pit is there. It's probably 30 feet below the grade of your leaching rings there.
Yeah, we've looked at it. It's significantly far enough away. Even the health department's criteria for setbacks to a bluff from a leaching pool is only 25 feet.
Okay.
We're well over 100 feet from the top of the bluff in that area. And I call it a bluff, the sand pit excavation.
And then one final thing on the lighting. I don't know, sometimes we have those bollard lights, along that sidewalk. Not that it has to be lit with big tall lights, but just maybe bollards.
Yeah, we have bollards that we're using throughout the walkways on the internal, and we'll see if it makes sense to add some more along the walkway. And we got the lighting comments as well, and we agree with them. We'll make those changes.
I don't have much to add. It's a great project. Just I think stress that keeping that front part vegetation comfortable instead of and then just again my concern with the exposure to the pit. Just keeping stuff made in the back. It's such a nice kind of clear view from the back, but it is inviting for kids. I do believe that. So just keeping it safe for the pit and for the residents of the project.
I think we can get those taken care of.
Right, well, I don't have too much to add. I want to thank you for a really smooth process. It's been a pleasure to work with, on Narragansett Meadows and this with you. I think, the gone away with the preliminary review comments and come back to us with the changes at the time. So hats off to you for that. I have my concerns echo everyone else's, but I just want to stress again that this isn't a groundwater protection area. It's a special designated pine barrens area. So we will tend to clearing and to replace whatever you are removing with indigenous plantings that are more beneficial to, the groundwater purification as the rain comes down. And I think is going to be important, and it'll also help, I think, if you can show that you're going to revegetate some of those areas. It'll help with some of the over-clearing of your basins. But I do agree with the attractive nuisance of that pit. I mean, I have 6 grandchildren who surf down that hill. So some kind of sand surfing, some kind of, I don't know. You could think that part through, because you're going to have to suggestion that you have for the landscaping as a barrier, also for vagrant dust, because there is going to be vagrant dust from that pit. So anyway, that's it for me. Do you all have any questions for us?
See the building elevations?
Sure, that'd be great.
Yeah, there are three.
Stand over for the chair.
This is, when you come back to Jody. So this is from the eastern side of the site, looking west. So it's essentially the back end of the site, where there is bus stop, bike racks, a little, like a trellis, a pergola, so that the back of the property also kind of doubles as the front. So you never feel like you're coming in the back door. That's very nice. It looks great too.
It's good.
And this is, this is from the south. That's west. You can see it slopes down, right? So northwest is here in the distance. The Bistrian sand mine would be to the back. And then here again is this perspective.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Right? And this is the view as you're coming up into the property. Now, this rendering makes it look a little bit more clear than it probably will be. There are a few glacial erratics, and we also try to honor them. We don't want to move them or certainly remove them. So we're going to incorporate them in the landscaping. So this is actually your driving east, coming up into the site. Sand pit will be here. And then be springs in that direction. Great.
Question.
Yep.
I'm wondering about you want to put the bus stop in the facility as opposed to down on the road. And the county will go up there and pick people up.
I don't know if the county will go up there and pick people up. The county bus system is constrained. Every time they add a mile, they have to subtract a mile. They have a formula that they use. Yeah,
I got it.
it's for the school bus. We don't know exactly what the plan is for County Road 40. The county's still working on 41, and they've done a lot to mitigate the vagrant dust. There's the Springs Fireplace Corridor is all about drag out. And, so they're addressing that. They're also adding rain gardens. We don't know if they're going to have a sidewalk, and if so, will it be on the east or the west side? So I think we'd be spinning our wheels if we tried to work out a sidewalk and a bus stop, and I think we don't have enough information to do that. So that's a school bus stop.
Not any influence over that process anyway. So.
No.
And hopefully, once this is in place, it'll influence them to put the sidewalk on that side.
Yes.
But, it could have that sort of segue.
Yeah, they may, I don't know what the county engineers are going to decide. They're not going to be on both sides probably because they want bike lanes, day marks, and the marina. And there's more commercial activity on the west side of 3 Mile. So if I had to bet, I would say they're going to put the sidewalk on that side. Yeah.
You've got a bus stop in Hampton, right? A county bus stop?
No, but it stops right out front. It doesn't pull into the
I
property.
got you. So it's that little bus depot.
Yeah, well, that's for someone who's waiting. It's a shelter for somebody who's waiting for a bus. We are very grateful to the Amagansett School District for adding us to their bus route. Initially, we were too close and they could not come and pick the children up. And then you probably remember there was a tragedy on that stretch of road. And the Amagansett School District actually, I think, changed their policy to accommodate Gansett Meadow so that the school bus enters the property off the road and comes in. So
Any rooftop solar? You think it any solar on those roofs? too expensive.
There isn't any in this preliminary, in this site plan application, but it's definitely, we're very motivated to add to the solar collection. We're hopeful that East Hampton is going to move forward with CCA, Community Choice Aggregation. And then once they do that, we can create an energy bank in East Hampton. Right now, NYSERDA, PSEG, LIPA, they don't have any programs really that benefit multifamily housing because all of the units have separate meters. So there's no way really to aggregate. But once the town does adopt CCA,
Well, that's in the future for sure.
yeah,
It's good to know. Because we'll have plenty of resource.
exactly. Then we can always incorporate that into the project at a later date.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Good luck.
Thank you. Any instructions for us with regard to deadlines or subsequent submissions? I know you have comments and we will meet and address those.
Follow-up memo with the things we discussed today, and then we'll get you on as soon as we can. Other questions? Yes, thank you. Right hand. Okay, does the board find the general layout acceptable?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Should a traffic study be submitted? Yes.
Yes.
Should the areas proposed to be lawn to go from north to south and the entrance road be changed to remain as the improvements? Should additional screening be provided along either the northern or southern side lot lines? Both of them, actually. And should the lighting plan be amended as noted above? Okay, the other thing we need to do is declare lead agency status, and we have a motion.
Second.
All in favor? Okay, well, we are lead agency, so that is our business. We'll send you a memo to say. These two things. Did you have one other comment?
Sorry, yeah, I didn't want to interrupt you in the middle. SECRA, because it's state funded, it has to be a coordinated review.
Oh,
So
okay.
we can send a list of agencies. Yeah, we get to do the lead agency.
Okay,
Okay,
all right,
thank you.
thanks. All right, next up is Twinkle Farm. Marco, and welcome, Marco, to your first town hall planning board meeting. Marco's first appearance to us in person.
Good evening, members of the board. Yeah,
Put the mic in front of your mouth. I mean, I think that was really what.
can you all also,
You guys are a little low too.
Yeah.
There's just,
Yeah, we're just.
they're working out the sound issue.
I feel like I was whispering. Yeah, I was that
is, right, yeah, so let me, screen share quickly, good evening, members of the board. So this is the application for Twinkle Farm, LLC. This has been reviewed, I believe, once before in its initial evaluation. This is the follow-up. So some background information. So this is an application to create a 68 foot by 24 foot, which is approximately 1,632 square foot storage slash equipment farm, a 16 foot by 26 foot and 8 inches, 428 square foot greenhouse, about 71,000 square feet of cultivated space, an accessory driveway and a walkway on roughly a 90,000 square foot parcel located in East Hampton. The parcel is zoned A3 residence in an agricultural reserve area that is subject to a grant of agricultural easement from 2014. It is considered to be vacant with various shrubs, grasses, and mature trees. It is located in the Suffolk County Pine Barrens region, special groundwater protection area, and part of groundwater management zone 5. With the aerial actually. All right. Don't have that one. So the proposed use for the parcel is an agricultural use, which is a defined use in town code. The applicant's narrative has detailed that the greenhouse will be a permanent structure constructed on a concrete foundation. The barn will be used to store farm equipment and supplies and includes a bathroom and loft area. The applicant has stated that the barn is to meet the town's revised groundwater protection policy. The greenhouse will be used to grow year-round flowers and propagate seedlings for crops and vegetables in an agricultural reserve. The applicant has also stated that all produce and flowers not used by the applicant and the family will be donated to local food pantries. The planning board had requested comments from the town's agriculture committee, and the committee states that the proposed barn is reasonable in scope and scale for the proposed agricultural use. The concern raised is whether or not an agricultural structure could be constructed if it is not part of a commercial business or enterprise. The committee encourages the planning board to request an opinion from the planning board attorney. The proposed application is located in the Suffolk County Pine Barrens and had been referred to the Suffolk County Planning Commission. The commission had found that the matter is for local determination and had a following comment, which is listed in the memo. The comment appears to be in reference to a New York State law for agricultural districts, agricultural data statement, in which the applicant is to provide adjacent landowners an agricultural data statement if it meets the following, which is also in the memo. But in summary, it does not appear that the application would require an agricultural data statement as the property is not located in the town's agricultural overlay district and is over 500 feet away from a New York State agricultural district as well. The property contains prime agricultural soils, which is RDB. I'm going to try to illustrate that. Okay, let's use 3. And so the line goes about roughly here. Which is Riverhead Sandy Loam, RDB, which is identified by the 1975 Soil Survey of Suffolk County, New York. Prepared by the Soil Conservation Service of the United States Department of Agriculture as a Class 2 soil, a prime agricultural soil. The applicant has submitted a revised survey and site plan that illustrates the depiction of the soils, which I illustrated on the screen. The placement of the parking area and proposed agricultural barn have been moved west by 10 feet and north by 15 feet, placing it further away from the areas of prime agricultural soils, but still mostly within them. Actually, let me just highlight it a little bit better. So this is all RDB. So just very briefly. A picture of which is also attached to them as well. The board should reconsider the relocation of the barn or greenhouse further to the west, which could place it entirely outside the area of prime agricultural soils while still meeting the rear yard setbacks. The following factors should be considered. A relocation would situate the barn closer to a neighboring residence, which is also currently owned by the applicants. However, the board should also consider the ownership of the property may change in the future, and that all site plans should be designed in anticipation of such change. Just put up a picture, just share screen that.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, sometimes you got to stop and then start again. I noticed.
So this is just, it's a recent aerial from the side kind of perspective. So you can see where the residence is on to the west. So appropriate evergreen screening could effectively reduce any potential adverse visual impacts from the 24-foot tall barn. The board may also wish to consider the merits of adding screening along the western property line if you find a relocation of the barn is not needed. Although the neighboring residents would be upwind of the prevailing summer and winter winds, the impacts of dust from any active agricultural operation could be partly mitigated through a vegetative buffer. 3 roughly 70-foot tall American beech trees currently exist in the northwestern portion of the subject parcel. You can actually see in the picture there's like 1, 2, 3. So the original site plan included an illustration of the location of mature trees throughout the property. The revised site plan has removed those illustrations, including those outside the area to be cultivated. As a result, it is difficult to determine if there will be ample space to preserve these trees, as well as avoid disturbance of areas prime agricultural soils. Although a barn of a smaller size or different dimensions will provide more space, it is recommended that the board should seek to preserve these mature trees if possible. The planning department notes that a row of smaller beech trees, roughly 20 feet in height, in Pennsylvania sedge, has been planted along the common driveway on the northern side of the subject parcel. At the time of this subdivision approval, the board had found that the existing trees along Green Hollow Road were adequate. Just going to put back up the site plan. And I'll just do some drawing really quickly again. This is where the RTB was. These are where this is the greenhouse, roughly, and this is the main barn. So the applicant has proposed a low nitrogen sanitary system. The applicant should provide additional sanitary plans and details for the proposed IA system. Sanitary calculations and a standard cross-section of the system design should be added to the site plan or provided as part of a separate sanitary plan. The applicants have proposed 2 dry wells to contain storm water runoff, one each at the western and eastern ends of the barn. The provided drainage calculations match the town standard of design to accommodate a 2-inch rainfall. No drainage control structures have been proposed for the greenhouse, which is of a relatively modest size. The specification sheets for the proposed exterior lights do not clearly indicate that the structures will be full cut off. The applicant should provide additional light details that demonstrate that the fixtures will be full cut off and comply with other applicable regulations and town code, as well as the planning board's guidance for exterior lighting. As noted above, the board should consider requiring landscaping in the form of evergreen screening along the western property line. No site landscaping plan has been submitted, but the site plan contains a landscaping note that reads, there is no formal landscaping proposed. The site will be either left natural or where the barn is being constructed, left to go back to its natural state. The board may wish to discuss the intent of this notation with the applicant at this time. It is noted that the grant of agricultural easement over the subject property states that nothing herein shall prevent the burden premises from being allowed to lie unused or fallow. But however, it is understood and agreed that it is the intent of the parties here to that the burden premises shall be in fact forever available for agricultural use. So they are allowed to use it for agricultural purpose. Basically, that's something it says. So at the time of the last review, the planning board requested the floor plans identify the areas of each floor. Revised floor plans have not been received and should be submitted. The plans should also include notation that indicates that the barn will comply with the planning board's groundwater protection policy, as noted in the applicant's cover letter dated May 21st, 2021. I do have the building plans that were from the initial evaluation, if you guys would like to view them afterwards. But in conclusion, the application is incomplete pending the resolution of the aforementioned issues and the submission of the required items.
Okay, thank you, Michael. Mr. Egan, would you like to?
Great.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Nice to see you in person.
Like the old days,
Yeah.
the good old days. Good evening, members of the board. David Eakin from David Eakin Associates for the applicant. Thank Marco for his extensive, report. I'll be fairly brief. On the housekeeping items, and the lighting, the cemetery, the floor plans, of course, we'll submit those. That's not an issue. I think there's three substantive issues, raised, and I like to briefly get on them. With respect to the use, I think that's really up to your council. I have a long view on it, which I won't give you. But if you're hearing what he has to say, save the spokes for. But secondly, with the placement of the barn, the way I view this is I was working off to the original site plan and the second one. And it looks like, and I understand the comments, and to me, it's the balancing of a couple of things. It's the balancing of the soil issue, trying to preserve, the extent possible, the farm soils. I don't think there's a requirement that 100% of it has to be preserved. That's not the case. That's not the standard. We all know in a subdivision context, even the most prime soils, you only have to save 70%. So, but we understand and would like to do as much as possible. That should be balanced with trees, the tree issue. I talked to my client about those 3 trees that were shown. I went and looked at them this morning. They are big and they're beautiful. She would like to preserve those. The one in the middle is not healthy. The 2 on the end are clearly in good shape. I'm not an arborist, but I went by and looked today. You can see the dead branches, and it's really not in very good shape. So, but I think she would definitely preserve the 2 and the one in the middle if possible. But I think that would be up to the professionals to decide whether that's. And the third thing is, and I know this is a small part of it from your perspective, but there's some kind of aesthetic element to this, of where things get placed, because this is part of an area where a family lives. And as I told you earlier, the subdivision is owned by a group of close siblings, and it's a family compound type situation. So they like it to look nice. So that's the less of the 3 elements I get. So what I would suggest is, I think this would be helpful, is that, I don't know if it would show up on this, but I can, let's give you orally. I believe that if we moved the barn to the west, as far as we can west, before we start implicating that tree. I don't know which one, I can't use this, but there's 3, it's really lined up over here, right? There's the 3 trees. It's over here somewhere. If we can move this barn to the point where we can live with that tree, I think that's helpful. It gets this barn shifted over as much as we can. And then get the benefit of the tree. And we also, to accommodate that, I think if we take this, we reduced, remember from last time, we reduced the driveway, we did all that, but it was reoriented a little bit there. We can reorient it back up to the north to give us room over here. I think if we move those 2 pieces, we can accommodate, move this closer, save the trees, and I think strike a reasonable balance. But anyway, I know you like to see what it looks like, but that's what I'm proposing at this point, unless you seriously object. But I think that would be the perfect solution, or at least the best solution under circumstances. I'd also like to talk about screening. I have to be honest with you. I've done a lot of work in agricultural areas. I've litigated them. I really know a lot about New York State agricultural market law. It's screening of an agricultural use or property. First of all, I think violates the spirit of the easement. If you look at the easement, the whereas clause, it talks about open space. And the whole intent of these, right? And if you go behind that to the sections of the state municipal law, the 247, which allows, gives the authority of the town to accept these easements, it's also full chock full of open space, open vistas, et cetera, et cetera. And as a matter of law and policy, the New York State Department of Agriculture deems any requirement to screen an agricultural operation as being unreasonably restrictive and not enforceable in the state. So I don't think screening is first of all needed here.
because, it's owned by the owner. This is a permanent home. She's raising a family there. This house is not gonna be flipped to whatever, like most of the other homes around here in the next couple of years. So I don't think it's really needed for the applicant perspective. And I don't think there's and screening to the west, I have to tell you, I can't understand why that would be required. Because that's the property line. There's no one here but her. If someone else forever, in 100 years or 50 years would buy this house, I'm sure they can address whatever issue they need to do. So I don't want to make a big deal out of it, but I don't really think it's justified. And I don't think it's really something that she's interested in doing. One of the things she's trying to do is that she has a close and looking field now. She's trying to make it look back like a farm. And I don't think trees and farms, and the easements today, I'm not sure where it is lately, but the last couple that I've worked on, there's been pushed by the town to actually put provisions in that restrict the placement of ornamental landscaping in open vistas. So I just don't think we can see ourselves clear on that. I think I'm able to. So other than that, that's what I have. We'll work to get you information. We'll get you a new plan, and hopefully it'll be to your satisfaction. Thank you.
A question about, there's a rectangle on the west side of the property. Looks like it might be a garden.
I think what that is last time I looked at an old greenhouse, a temporary greenhouse is going to be removed. This.
Get the area. It's
Right here?
No, it's that bigger one on the aerial.
Yeah, we'll get you the aerial in a second.
Okay.
I believe it's a garden.
Is that what it is now? I'm not sure. Tell you the truth, to be honest with you. If it is, it's going to be plowed under because she's going to use everything. And the other thing we did, I want to just take note of, we did expand the area of cultivated field by recommending them that they use all this area over here, which wasn't originally included. So on a net basis, even the way we moved it, we've increased the amount of soil available there to be cultivated. So, but that's a garden, it'll be incorporated into a row somewhere. So
The other thing I just would mention is, and this, Dave, from Wainscott, we've got these ag areas with some people have planted like 20-foot high arborvitae walls along the public view into.
Yeah, well,
and I don't think we can go back and revisit that, but it would be nice if she would keep some of those public views along Green.
I don't think she has any intent to do that. And I know if anything, she wants to open it up. What you see now is closed in. Frankly, it's when I first went, I know her, I went to talk to her about this project. It didn't look like a field to me. And I live in Wainscott on open fields. So she wants to create an open field the way it used to be as part of the park before. So I think, I understand what you're saying. I don't think she wants to do that at all.
We would welcome any open vistas, public vistas.
Absolutely. And that's one of the reasons we kind of objected to the concept of screening. Because it's inconsistent with really what she wants to do and what should be there. Particularly across the street with that beautiful open area. It's to hopefully add to that, that concept, make more of a neighborhood.
Okay.
That would be the goal.
Thank you.
Anyone else have anything?
Well, this is Lou's application, so he's going to lead us to
Okay.
committee and then we can ask some questions.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay, so on this application, my concerns, to save those trees. That's important to me. And also to make sure with regard to the sanitary system, that it's designed to meet the planning board and groundwater protection policy. So those are the top two primary concerns. This whole thing about agricultural soil, I You know, I keep going over this in my head, and I have a certain logic about it, and I welcome the rest of the board to disabuse me of this if I'm wrong. But the way I see it, there's 71,000 square feet here of land that is under an agricultural easement. Most of it is prime agricultural soil. So to me, it's more important to save those trees than to not build the barn, a part of the barn on the agricultural soils, that you would do away with the ability to plant in the prime agricultural soil. Because what benefit are you getting from doing that, from insisting on that? You're getting the benefit of the owner to plant more flowers or more vegetables that she's going to use herself or maybe give away. It's not as though we're trying to preserve as much prime agricultural soil as we can because we need to produce more crop in order to feed the masses. If we enter a post-apocalyptic era and we need every square foot of prime agricultural soil, then this issue would be an important one. You're doing away with that. But to me, I don't see how the aesthetics remain the same, and whether you plant the flowers on prime agricultural soil or somewhere else on this enclosed 71,000 square feet, to me, it doesn't make a difference. I think the other factors that you say need to be balanced with this, the aesthetics, saving the trees, things like that, are much more important than whether or not you're able to preserve this agricultural soil. So anyway, those are my comments. And I welcome the rest of the board to try to refute what I'm saying.
Well, I will admit that she will save those three trees. She definitely will save those two others. The one in the middle, she will save if she can.
Sounds like she wants to do both things. Save the soil and.
Yeah, no, I appreciate.
Well, I'm trying to do both. I'm trying to do as much as I can and still need it.
That's right. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I'm supportive of the application. I agree with a lot of what Lou said, but I do think preserving the prime agricultural soils is an important thing, but there's a balance. I think that part of that balance is certainly how you want to develop your property within our standards, and I think it makes sense. The plan you have, I think trying to scoot it back as far as you can while still saving those trees. I think the barn in front of the parking makes sense from the public view standpoint. So it's all a balance. I do, just to address Lou's comments a little bit, we are planning for, perpetuity. So, eventually this might be more of a food production farm. And so we want to think about that and not spoil the land, but I don't think you're doing that. And I think that you strike the appropriate balance here. And again, it's what you want, which I think matters quite a bit too. And I would agree wholeheartedly with the applicant's comments on screening. I don't think there's any need to screen an agricultural barn or an agricultural operation because it's part of our town's heritage and something that we should encourage and hopefully will be part of our views for a long time to come. The only thing here I think would be the letter from the Agricultural Advisory Committee. I'm the ex officio planning board member in that group and I was at that meeting. I think largely the committee was supportive of what you're doing. It's just a question of whether this is part of commercial business or enterprise. I defer to our counsel on that. I don't know where that'll land, but it was just an open question. And I think that we had another application, a similar question. I think that has to be addressed, but otherwise I think you're well on your way and I look forward to seeing that field plowed and planted.
Thomas, do you have anything for us on that?
Yeah, I'll put this in writing in the file, but I looked at, unlike the other application that we had on this issue, this one does have a narrative. And, I looked at the narrative, I looked at the Ag Advisory Committee's memo that brought up this issue. And, our first thing is that the phrase commercial business or enterprise is not further defined in that definition of agriculture. So we're kind of, winging it. But, I'd note that the Ag Advisory Committee, even though they brought up this issue, was supportive of this application and this structure. And also, the narrative notes that they're bringing on other people to work on the property and that the produce or whatever is being produced is not just for personal consumption. So, given that we don't have a definition to work on, my opinion as the attorney, and I'll put it in writing, is that, and I talked to John Janicki about this and he agrees, is that, this would satisfy what we believe is a commercial business or enterprise as it is written in that definition. And also that, this property is affected by an agricultural easement, it makes sense to interpret it in that way. So I'll write that down. I'll put that in a written memo to the file. And that's all I have.
Okay, that'd be great. Thank you. Okay, Randy.
Yeah, I think, as Ian said, we're doing long-term thinking here, and it may be that we certainly wouldn't want to limit her to commercial activity. We would want to see this available for commercial agriculture. And so we don't want to do anything that prevents that from happening in the future. She may not want to do it right now. So I also agree with Ian that, there's been a lot of work on prime agricultural soils. The federal government paid for this amazing soil survey. And our laws are based on the prime agricultural soils. So I think David proposed a good compromise, which is if you can preserve more of the soil. I noticed the planning board that approved this put part of the RDB in what looks like a building. So they sort of pre-decided that they weren't going to protect all the RDB soil. But I think David's compromise is good, as much as you can. And I agree, the trees, the trees dying. We don't want to, within reason, protect it. That's basically it. I welcome seeing this land, put back into production. And as I said before, I hope that people can enjoy looking across that field, seeing your new barn.
Okay, Sharon?
Yeah, I agree with Randy and Ian. I think the compromise of moving that barn over just a little bit, save as much wood as possible is a good one. And, when I read about the screening, I was thinking the same thing. I think we want the farm vistas as much as possible, so I would not require the screens.
Great. Well, I agree with my colleagues, and I want to thank the applicant for, taking our original suggestion to preserve more of those prime egg soils and to keep those trees, which you have done. So thank you, and please thank your client. And I understand the suggestion for the screening, which is to imagine the future of these two parcels parted. But I don't think at this point it's in the spirit of what we're looking for. So I would veto that myself. Okay, so we'll go through the questions. Does the board find the proposed location for the barn and the buildings acceptable, and should it be relocated potentially further to the west outside the areas of prime agricultural soils? The motion has already agreed to do that as much as possible. Yes, if I'm here otherwise, I'm going to assume it's a yes. Should evergreen screening be provided along the western property line?
No.
I think that's a no. Okay, that's to the three roughly 72 feet tall beech trees being included in the site plan and be allowed to be removed. I think we decided we should be in the site plan, we want to keep the site with trees, so retain trees. Should the applicant provide additional sanitary details? Yes, so including design details, sanitary calculations, you said you submit all that, right? All that stuff. Should the applicant advise floor plans to proposed agricultural environment to include prairie, environmental design, to meet the planning board's groundwater protection policy. And you know about that, right? So that. And to the planning board obtain the opinion from the town attorney regarding the agricultural committee's concerns about constructing structures and agricultural easement not part of the commercial business or enterprise, and we are getting such a memo from our wonderful attorney. Thank you for that. So I think we're good. Do you have anything for us?
Thank you.
All right, great. Thanks.
Thank you all for your time and consideration. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. I think this worked out well. Okay, so next up, and I'm glad to see you're here. I was despairing that you might not be here, Mr. President. Because you're the last event tonight, so. Yes, okay, we're on to East Hampton pods.
Okay, I'll bring the revegetation landscaping site plan up in a second, but basically there's two issues here, and as a reminder, this is a modification of a site plan application that was previously approved by the board a number of years ago. There were two issues: clearing. The board stated at the time of the last review that that a revegetation plan, I should say the revegetation plan, was acceptable. It does appear that all the required plantings have since been performed. These areas, which are intended to represent revegetation, have been mulched. The planning department does not object to this, and it should actually help the survival of the plants. However, it should be noted that this area should remain undisturbed in the future. At the time of the last review, the board also requested that written comments from the airport manager be provided on a number of issues, and I did attach your post-meeting memo. There were three issues, well, three sort of questions that the board had. One is the fence location adjacent to the taxiway acceptable? Two, will the fence interfere with operation of neighboring taxiways? And three, does the project comply with the airport layout plan? As of the date of this memorandum, the planning board has not received anything in writing from Jim Brundage, the airport manager. I did have a conversation over the phone with Mr. Krupnick and with Mr. Brundage. The airport manager indicated to me that he was fine with all of those issues. However, we do not have that in writing. The board did request that, and you should have that in writing. Once you do have that, it does appear that the modification application would be complete, ready for approval.
All right. Did you want to address the board?
Sure. The other two open
Come
items.
to the podium and identify yourself.
Gary Klubman.
Could you stand by the microphone, please? Thank you.
Long day. The other two open items were fire marshal did a full inspection and signed it off. I'm sure that's where we are now. Department. And there's one other, I think that was it. I mean, we had to replace some of the trees that didn't make it through the winter, and that was done quite a while ago. So, Mr. Brundage's position is on all three of these items is that we were required to, and we did, file with the FAA, the FAA's required form for structures within the boundaries of an airport, even though it's non-NON airside. The FAA passed on that, and they made the decision that the location, the building, the height, and the way it was planned as it relates to the fence, which separates the taxiway from the industrial property, was fine. And so Jim's position is that, you know, any more than that, it's a legal decision, let the town attorney do it. But he's got what he needs, and if it didn't apply, satisfy the ALP, the FAA wouldn't have signed off on it. And if it didn't meet any of the other criteria that the FAA had, they wouldn't have signed off on it.
Right.
Our federal application.
As a matter of, you know, but do we have a written document from the FAA saying their son that this is?
Jim does.
And
He just,
that-
he doesn't want to be in a position, it's my understanding that he, and I think Eric will tell you, he doesn't want to be in a position to make a legal decision.
All he has to do is submit that letter to the file.
Okay,
I-
what he
you know,
said he would be
Part
willing
of what
to
we're
do.
trying to establish here, excuse me, we're trying to establish a file, a record of
Right.
how these things are done, especially with properties that are on the airport. And this was sort of atypical in that you did a lot of this stuff before you had site plan approval. And we wanted to make sure that some of this was backed up by, you know, we don't want there to be conflicts with the airport.
Okay, so,
And we have asked Jim for other opinions, for other things that go there. And I understand it's not, you know, raring to go to put something in writing, and that's fine. We have nothing in the file that reflects either of these positions. And as time goes on and this board moves on, that file will be the only record of how this was done. So we need that. We need that in writing.
okay, so I think what he's willing to do from my conversations with him, I don't know if he articulated that to Eric or not, but he's willing to reference the FAA's sign off on our federal application
That's fine.
and say, you know, it's the opinion of the FAA is attached, for the attached document that was submitted by the applicant, that it meets the following, the criteria you're looking for.
I mean, I don't think, you know, I get it, but all we asked, we had three pretty specific questions here that weren't, you know, don't require him to be in any sort of uncomfortable legal position. It's just, was the fence location adjacent to the taxiway acceptable? It's a yes or no. Is it acceptable? Yes or no? Will the fence interfere with the operation of neighboring taxiways? Yes or no? Does the project comply with the airport layout plan? It was pretty, you know, these weren't, and Jim is a town employee, so it's not like,
Probably why he doesn't want to take the liability.
yeah, well, I don't know that he has liability. Does he, Thomas? I mean, can you clarify this a little bit? I don't really understand why this has been it's been over a year. We can't seem to get this.
I'll talk to him, yeah,
I
and
think
see,
so.
because I mean, I haven't talked to him at all about this, but, yeah, I'll ask him.
Because all he could, you know, he just has to write no, 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 and we're done, you know?
Or
It's
give
Right.
us, give us the FAA document.
Yeah, that what I'm saying is, that I think I get from, because he said that he would reference that, and that would be the basis.
No, that'd be totally fine. I mean, we just want to make sure, and as, you know, other property on the airport land is developed, we have to have these protocols in place to make sure that people, you happen to be very well schooled in aircraft and aviation because you built some of those hangars, but not every applicant that comes before us is. So we want to make sure we have a protocol in place that properly treats the needs of the airport with adjacent
I have no issue with it.
buildings and property owners, that's all. So if we can get that to us, I think we'll be all right. Anyway, Randy, this is your application.
That's pretty much it. I think, I think it's ready for approval, but I think as Eric said, we want that coordinated, that Kathy described, we want that coordinated review where our airport property site plans, you know, you can imagine, we do site plans without the input of the airport manager. I mean, it'd be stupid. So.
If you're responsible for
It doesn't work- it
us.
doesn't work for me.
Yeah, I'll call.
Just, I think that's. Okay, Sharon, did you have it? Lou? Lou?
Yeah, just as far as the comments, I mean, I agree with the other board members. You know, I think we should send comments to let other boards know how we're feeling, even if, you know, we're not certain or we're deferring to some other agency. It's nice to just know where we're. So I'd love to see that. However, you know, I would move forward without it at this point, to be honest with you, because I don't think it's fair to the applicant if two town agencies can't get on the same page. So I welcome Thomas to reach out to Jim. Hopefully that comes in before an approval. It doesn't sound like there's an issue here. Otherwise, he would certainly be negligent to not letting us know about it. So I'd be comfortable moving forward if for whatever reason he doesn't submit something, but I don't foresee that to be an issue.
So, does that mean we get a vote on it tonight, subject to something, or are we gonna come back to them?
Well, it sounds like I might be in the minority opinion on that.
You might be in the minority on the opinion. I just think we're setting a bad precedent. I get it. And, you know, all these conversations have been, there's no indication that there's any problem. I understand that. But if we don't have an accurate record, we're setting a precedent for other people that are going to want to come in and do the same thing. You know, I talked to so-and-so and they said it was okay. So I just think we have to wait. But let's expedite.
Well, it's not,
Let's expedite
to
it.
be fair, it's not your word that I'm taking. It's the fact that we've written to request comments and haven't gotten them. So, I mean, I don't think there's much of a disagreement here, and I don't think it's going to be an issue.
Thomas, if you could just prioritize getting in touch with Jim, and then we'll be in touch with you, Mr. Krupnick. We'll send you a follow-up memo, but I think we're gonna have to wait.
He did say he would give me a letter referencing the FAAs, so.
Well, that should be
I'll call him tomorrow.
simple enough.
If that's sufficient, that's it.
And that's-
For the record, that was my understanding from the conversation.
So then I think we're really close to the end. I'm sorry it's taken this long. I don't understand.
There's no
why
more
it's
public
taken this
hearings
long,
on point.
But it has, so.
The only thing that I would ask is, Thomas, when you do talk to him, just sort of let him know our opinion about this, that we would like to hear, even if it's the sort of, I don't want to disagree with the FAA, that's fine.
Yeah.
We just always like to see
Yeah.
something if we can.
Yeah, and he needs to defer to the FAA. We understand that. You know, maybe we can write a follow-up letter to him. You know, clearly their rules and regulations take precedence for that property. But we also have, you know, just simple questions.
No, you need a record.
Exactly.
That's exactly, I don't have an issue.
All right, great. Well, I appreciate that. Thank you for coming. And have a safe trip back to wherever you're going.
Quite a building you got. It's amazing building. Yeah.
It's working well. So they're at about 86% now, and they want a bigger building. So, not even a year old.
People in East Hampton have a lot of stuff.
They surely do.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, so now we'll go on to our regular meeting. Oh. January 7th.
He's gonna reference the FAA.
Okay, well, does anybody have? Oh, you don't have it either, and, okay. Joey, can you look us up, please, with the public hearing notices? Because I don't have the, my statute, Sharon doesn't have those. You don't have either? Okay. Yeah, this thing takes long once we get the language. I mean, I can go get them. You don't have it, huh?
No, I don't need it.
Do you have anything, Thomas?
I edited two of them. I can print out.
All we really need is a date, right?
Thank you. Let me go see if I can find hand lane on the shared file, and I'll print out the other stuff. Let's do it real quick.
Thank you.
We should have the two other ones, right?
What's that?
We don't have them.
We don't have any of them.
We don't have any.
Oh, you know,
Three, and none of us have any of them. Ready for Tuesday. There you go. No. So, it's a little dead air. Oh, yes. My, well, something remarkable just happened to this.
I think that was me leaving the meeting.
Oh, wow.
Yes, I'll take care of that. Just give me 1 second.
All right, sorry about that. So, yeah. Yeah.
It's,
I think that's the idea.
it's just like in the airport.
It was before. What was your first?
I think they're just
Oh, yeah, that
makes for the sound and everything.
Wow, that's true.
And they just didn't want to be bothered setting that up. Except-
And when will that's corn be coming? Sorry, minds want to know.
It's coming.
I watched a little. I think it's gonna come over. It's a compromise.
restricted.
Thanks.
Ticketing was very, agreed to it.
The pictures.
One more thing. Thank you. It's
Yes.
all-
One copy of
it's, Thank you, dear. Okay, so. Well, I'll,
Too big.
no matter the application, minor subdivision, schedule a public hearing. Sorry, we have a town hall on 59 Twinkle Road, Hampton, on Wednesday, August 4th at 7 p.m. or soon thereafter, as is matter of year. I've read the resolution and move for its adoption.
Second.
All in favor? Okay. So, thanks, Sharon.
In the matter of the application of Gia D'Agostino Art Studio, tax map number 300-103-28. It's to schedule a public hearing to be held at the town hall. Sports 2021 at 7 p.m.
Excuse me, everybody. I apologize for interrupting. If I could just ask for you to just speak up a little bit louder, it would help out the microphone.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do you want me to repeat that?
Please.
Okay. In the matter of the application of the Gia D'Agostino Artist Studio, tax map number 300-103-8-28, to schedule a public hearing to be held at Town Hall, 159 Hampton Road on Wednesday, August 4th, 2021 at 7 p.m. or soon thereafter, as this matter may be heard. To consider said application.
Second.
All in favor? Okay. Next.
In the matter of the application of Elizabeth Moran Artist Studio, tax map number 300-168-4, schedule a public hearing to be held at Town Hall, 159 Hampton Road, East Hampton, on Wednesday, August 4th, 2021 at 7 p.m. or as soon thereafter, as this matter may be heard, to consider the said application.
Second.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Okay, well, so we're all set then. Thank you, everybody. Anything else, right? Thomas, we're good?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, we're adjourned. Thanks, everybody. Bye now. That was exciting. It was really